BEFM 부산영어방송.
We are
The firefighter duo.
Winter is so dry. Let's prevent fire by keeping these 3 rules. If you take caution, you can prevent a fire.
The number one cause of fire in winter are electric blankets. Take special caution with highly flammable materials such as memory foam, toppers, and bedding.
Number 2, having too many appliances on the power outlet is dangerous. Always unplug all the appliances that you're not currently using.
Number 3, check the heater is off before leaving the house. Leaving it on for an extended period of time can cause a fire.
Let's all take part in preventing fire and have warm and safe winter this year.
Tune into BEFM 부산영어방송 for an emergency broadcast.
This campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산영어방송.
Welcome to Busan. Let me show you around. Here you can find the world's largest musical in-ground fountain and the world's only UN memorial cemetery. Stroll along the coast and explore the largest mountain fortress in Korea. As well as all this, there are so many tourist attractions, beautiful exhibitions, vibrant culture, convenient facilities, and delicious foods unique to Busan. With all the beauty and charm of the amazing city of Busan, you'll find yourself right at home in this ever-changing tourism paradise. So stay with us a while. Busan, your number 1 tourist destination. Your home, away from home. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, Busan 영어방송.
지금 방송 광고라는 부메랑을 던져보세요. 소비자를 향해 정확히 날아가는 광고. 힘차게 돌아가는 경제. 부메랑처럼 다시 기업의 이익으로 되돌아오니까요. 방송 광고, 경제에 큰 힘이 됩니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 2 o'clock.
Welcome to BFM News at 2. I'm David Kim. Senior nuclear representatives from South Korea, the United States, and Japan are meeting today to discuss strategies to address North Korean provocations. Kim Gun, Seoul's special representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, will join Hiroyuki Namatsu of Japan and Jung Pak from the U.S. in discussions this afternoon. Im Soo-seok, a spokesperson for Seoul's foreign ministry, stated that the trio will exchange views on the current dynamics in the Korean Peninsula. This includes recent hostile actions by North Korea, rising tensions, military cooperation, and interactions with Russia and their planned response strategies. In preparation for this tripartite session, Kim Gun and Hiroyuki Namatsu conducted separate bilateral discussions on Wednesday, emphasizing the commitment to collaborate on North Korean issues both bilaterally and within the framework of cooperation among South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. The government has announced the abolition of the income tax on financial investments and a reduction in the securities transaction tax aimed at supporting individuals in asset accumulation. During a public forum led by President Yoon Suk-yeol, the Financial Services Commission, FSC, made this decision public on Wednesday. The forum focused on issues related to people's livelihood. This move follows President Yoon's commitment in his New Year's address to address the Korea discount, which refers to the undervaluation or higher risk premiums of local stocks compared to global assets. In local news, the impact on Busan port is being closely watched following the sudden decision by the world's second-largest shipping company, Denmark's Maersk, and Germany's Hapag-Lloyd, ranked 5th globally, to form a new operational alliance. According to the Busan Port Authority today, Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd announced in the morning the formation of the new operational alliance, called the Gemini Cooperation, which will commence operations in February 2025. The two companies plan to jointly operate on 26 routes, deploying a total of 290 vessels and handling a cargo volume of 3.4 million TEUs. Busan City said today that it is providing a public information specialized search engine or search service through the portal site Naver. When searching for Busan City or Busan City Hall on Naver, various public information related to city administration can be viewed at a glance. Users can easily access the city's officially operated social media channel and view important announcements. The service also includes shortcuts to frequently sought services like job information, public facility courses and reservations, and employee information, as well as details about festivals and events happening in the month. In international news, Pentagon officials have confirmed that the United States executed a fourth series of strikes against the Iran-supported Houthi group in Yemen, as announced on Wednesday evening. The U.S. targeted approximately 14 Houthi missiles, which were reportedly poised for attacks on maritime traffic in the Red Sea. The United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, reported that these sites were hit by Tomahawk missiles launched from vessels of the U.S. Navy. These actions coincide with the U.S. government's decision to label the Houthis as global terrorists. Iran has acknowledged conducting a missile and drone strike in western Pakistan on Tuesday. Pakistani officials reported that the assault on Balochistan, resulted in the death of 2 children and injuries to 3 others. The Iranian foreign minister stated that the attack was aimed at Jaish al-Adi, which he labeled as an Iranian terrorist group operating in Pakistan. And now taking a look at the weather here, it's currently 9 degrees Celsius in Busan City with scattered showers throughout the day. Rain is forecast until 9 p.m. today. No rain is forecast tomorrow, but scattered showers are again forecast on the weekend. And that'll have to do it for this hour's news. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Coming up next is Steve Hatherly Reboot. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
What you're about to hear is amazing. That's because you're locked in to Busan's #1 English radio station. Whether you're at home, at work, or driving in your car, you will be exposed to radio excellence. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because it starts right now.
Sounds are around us all the time, and even when we think we are in silence, we actually really aren't. The world, even when quiet, has all kinds of ambient noises as well. What may be surprising to you, though, is because that is the way that we have lived our whole lives. Our brains have become accustomed to it, and if the sounds aren't there, then our brains become really, really uncomfortable. I'll talk about that today. It's really interesting. It's Thursday, January 18th, 2024. I'm Steve Hatherly. This is Steve Hatherly Reboot. Let's go. That was Noah Kahan and Hosier with Northern Attitude. And on November 10th of 2023, which was last year, Northern Attitude became Northern Latitude with the re-release of the song by Noah Kahan featuring none other than Hosier. The stunning indie folk tune finds the Vermont native faced with feelings of isolation and uncertainty about life in general. Kahan, he's such a star, right? His raw and honest delivery feels all the more affecting alongside Hosier's very rich and pleading vocals. The result is a hauntingly, and it is a haunting tune, isn't it? But it's also a beautiful soundscape that spotlights two of the year's most captivating and distinctly unique voices. And it's interesting that the word soundscape is in that description because we're going to be talking about sounds on the program today. That one got us going. I am live in the studio from Busan on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the show, everyone. You're tuned in on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Jongguan, and Noksan areas. In Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3 and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7. Thank you very much for being with us today. Rainy afternoon outside. I'm your host, Steve Hatherly. Hisuk's listening today. Good afternoon to you. Very hazy, Hisuk says. Yes, it's kind of a dreary day today, kind of Gotham-esque. You expect Batman to be walking down the street solving crimes in this kind of atmosphere today. But I don't mind as long as you're dressed for it, right? And it's very warm this afternoon as well, so we'll take it. All right, let's get to what's on the show today, shall we? Well, first of all, let's talk YouTube. Go on over there and search BEFM or Busan영어방송 in Korean. You can watch our live stream there, and you can do that until the songs start to play. And when they do, they'll fade out. And the reason they fade out is because of music copyright issues. When that happens, you can open up your BEFM app, or you can listen to the music through FM radio as well. And when the song's finished, then you can go ahead and resume your BEFM live stream. That's the way it's got to be done because of those music copyright issues. We apologize for the inconvenience, but we do appreciate your patience and your understanding there as well. Oh, by the way, I'm feeling a lot better today. My voice is back in better condition. Perfect? No, but better condition today. After the show yesterday, I went straight to the hospital. And I don't know if you do this or not, but I would really recommend it. I'm not a doctor or a medical professional, but those IV bags or those IV bottles, oh my goodness. They hook it up to your arm, and then it's just a drip, right? I don't know what's in there. It's electrolytes or whatever it is. It's magic to me. And it takes 1 hour, and after it's done, then they take the needle out, and then you get up and you go, and you kind of like a little woozy, a little lightheaded, but after about 30 minutes, you feel amazing. Incredible. If you do catch a cold, or if your health is a little, if you're a little under the weather these days, I would recommend getting one of those IV things. Or at least that's, for me, that worked. I don't know if it would for you or not. But that's what I did after the show yesterday, and I am feeling so much better today. And isn't it cool, too, when you're feeling sick, you automatically feel depressed, right? It's true. Or maybe that's just me, but I think it's a human nature thing. And then when you feel better, all of a sudden your mood comes back, but it comes back even better than it was before. So I'm feeling great today, and I hope you're having a great day so far as well. All right, let's talk about our first hour coming up. Hot off the press. We'll kick things off that way, as we always do. You'll hear some trendy music that has been newly released, where I'll give you a little about the artist and a little about the track as well. After that, Parenting 101 time, and Cheryl will be in the studio to share some news about childcare and parenting, and we'll be listening to her experiences of raising her daughter as well. Cheryl will stay with me for what remains of the first hour. Then in hour number 2, yes, I mentioned in the opening that we were going to be talking about sounds. And for our fun fact of the day, this is quite interesting. The quietest room in the world. The quietest room in the world. A YouTuber did an experiment and went in. There's a term for this type of room where all sound, literally all sound, is cut off. And then the YouTuber kind of described the experience of what it was like to be in there. And then I'll share that YouTuber's experience with you. What's interesting is that our brain likes sound. We do, right? We enjoy sound because we're constantly surrounded by it, even if we think we're not, because of all of the ambient sounds. For example, in your home, you hear the refrigerator probably, even though you don't realize you're hearing the refrigerator. There's always all kinds of sounds going on around us all the time. If we walk down the street, how many sounds are we actually hearing when we walk down the street? 20, 30, 40, 300? I don't know. We don't even think about it because we're so used to it. But here's the deal. Our brains have become so accustomed to sound in any way, shape, or form that if it's gone, if the sound is completely gone, our brain freaks out. It doesn't like it, and it doesn't know what to do. Some people go to sleep at night in a quiet room, and they think it's silent. But apparently, it's not silent because of ambient sounds. Other people, like myself, I can't go to sleep in silence. The silence is deafening. The silence feels noisy to me, so I need some sort of ambient sound in the background. That's why I always listen to a podcast when I go to sleep at night. Anyway, back to the point for our fun fact of the day. Yes, we will be talking about the quietest room in the world. After that, we'll move on to Hatherly's Hather List, and today we'll continue on with our topic of sound, and I just have a list of sound-related information. Some things true, some things false. It's kind of like a myth-busting segment today and things related to sounds. Quite an interesting list. I'm looking forward to getting to that in the second hour. After that, perfect playlist where we have the best songs for every situation, and I will check your messages throughout the program as well. All right, so here's my question of the day today. Again, this is related to sounds. And I think before on the show, I've asked you about the sound that you don't enjoy hearing or that you enjoy hearing. But here's what I want to know today. What sound makes you cringe? Cringe, C-R-I-N-G-E. Cringe is a word that means when you hear it, you go, oh, I don't like that. Like that kind of reaction. 여러분을 오그라들게 만드는 소리는 무엇인가요? I think there's lots, right? What's an easy example? Fingernails on a classroom chalkboard. You can hear it in your brain right now, can't you? And you're kind of cringing a little bit. What's another one? A fork. If you scrape a fork on a plate, that sound, that makes you cringe. That's what cringe means. So that's my question today. What sound makes you cringe? Text me your answers, pounder sharp 9050. That will cost you 101. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send messages for free. Search BEFM or Busan영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us a comment after logging in. And that is all the information you need for now. We'll have a brief break. And when we come back, we'll check out today's Hot Off the Press. Here is Elenium, Avril Lavigne, and Travis Barker, Eyes Wide Shut.
I say I love you, but I
Elenium, Avril Lavigne, and Travis Barker, Eyes Wide Shut. We're back, and it's time for today's Hot Off the Press, where from Monday to Friday, we bring you two of the newest, hottest tracks from the world of music, and a lot of songs get released every week. We choose a couple each day that we hope you'll enjoy. We'll start today with a new one from Andrew Hyatt. This is called Finding First. The 2023 CCMA Album of the Year nominee, Andrew Hyatt, has rapidly achieved some important milestones over the past few years, with tens of millions of streams and video views, top 10s on major market stations, the title of top country from Sirius XM. This man has solidified his presence in the country music scene. His journey has also included high-profile performances on prominent festival stages and touring alongside stars like Dallas Smith, Dean Brody, and Tim Hicks, just to name a few. After the new one from Andrew Hyatt, we'll hear Ethan, What I Feel Is Love. He said this: Mom had amazing taste. I grew up with the best music. Elton John, the Beatles, Otis Redding, George Michael, Take That, and Queen. Great songwriters, educating and inspiring for me. I was learning James Morrison, You Give Me Something. My dad was like, was that you? That sounds amazing. Do it again. The encouragement needed to start gigging, or maybe made him start gigging at some point in the future, at school, local talent shows, busking, and open mics. Wherever he could play, he would. And it was the YouTube age when he started posting covers, building a global audience online, and that's when a record company came calling, and at 19, he released his first EP. Here we go with our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. Andrew Hyatt, Finding Firsts, and then Ethan, What I Feel Is Love. Etham, What I Feel Is Love, and before that, Andrew Hyatt, Finding First. Those were our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. Fun question of the day today. Here's what I want to know. What sound makes you cringe? Cringe is a word that means it's a reaction word. So when you see something or hear something, your reaction is like, I don't like that thing. Andy's listening today. Good afternoon to the Juicy Preacher. He says, styrofoam. I threw up whenever I heard it when I was a kid. And I thought, when you heard it, styrofoam, what sound does styrofoam make? Oh, like when you open a box and then it's the styrofoam versus the cardboard, I guess. Is that what you're talking about? Like that friction when you pull them against each other? Or is it when you break styrofoam? Can I have some more details on that one, please? Interesting answer. I've never heard that before. Hisuk says, I hate the sound of lightning. You would get along well with my mom. Yes, my mom has a fear of thunder and lightning. She absolutely hates it. So I know what you mean when you say that, Hisuk. 1191 texted in and said, I'm afraid of dogs. So when I hear a dog coming down the street with that dog sound, the panting sound. Oh, sorry. I probably just made you cringe, 1191. That's interesting, though. It's not the barking sound. It's the panting sound of a dog that you don't like. Interesting answers. I've never heard that before. Keep them coming in and tell me what sound, when you hear it, makes you cringe. 여러분을 오그라들게 만드는 소리는 무엇인가요? Pounder Sharp 9050. That will cost you 100 won. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send messages for free by searching BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us a comment after logging in. Thursday afternoon, and it's time for Parenting 101, and it's going to be the last time for a little while.
Yeah, going to be the last time for about 6 weeks.
For 6 weeks,
yeah.
Cheryl's here, and you're out of country coming up in a few days.
I am. I'm so excited. It's been 4 years.
You're going back to Australia.
Going back to Australia.
For the first time in 4 years, huh?
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, where are your emotions right now? Are you nervous at all about it? It's been a while since you've been back.
I'm actually feeling a bit of anxiety about traveling again because it's been 4 years. And I feel so unprepared to be able to go, especially after being in Korea, where we've been masked up and there have been so many procedures the last 4 years. So actually venturing out into the wilds.
Yeah.
It's making me feel a bit anxious.
Anxious, but still
happy.
Super
so excited
at the same time. Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's really good. All right. Well, today's the last segment for us for a while. So we'll have to make sure it's a good one. Let me ask you before we get going, though, what sound makes you cringe?
100%. It's got to be the sound of a twin whinging.
A what?
When my daughter starts whinging.
Oh, complaining.
It just, raises the hackles.
Your daughter's outside the studio
I know
right
she
now.
is.
I feel like we should give her the opportunity to come in and defend herself. The defendant isn't even present in court today.
Well, she is kind of. She's just the other side of the door.
Yeah, right. So that sound of kids complaining.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to.
Oh, it's so bad.
Oh, that one, huh? Well, I'm sure if I asked your daughter what sound made her cringe, she'd probably say Mom nagging at me to do stuff.
I don't. I really don't. I'll just ask once.
Yeah, right.
And then a day later again.
It gets done.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Parenting 101, you're here to share some news on childcare and just parenting in general, and we'll listen to some experiences of yours, of course, of raising your daughter. So what's our topic today?
So today's topic, as the parent of a soon-to-be middle schooler, I know that entering this phase of education can be difficult, especially with changing hormones, the onset of teen brain. So today we'll be talking about a CNN article, 5 ways you can shore up a middle schooler's self-image.
Oh, 5 ways to make your elementary school graduate feel more confident as they're starting their new life in middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's true, right? Because for middle school, when you finish elementary school and you enter middle school, you're going from being the king of the world to the runt of the group again, right? So that's a completely brand new social dynamic.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens from middle school to high school too, right? From grade 9 to grade 10. So you've got that going on. Then you've got the whole issue of some of your friends are gone.
Yeah.
And you got to meet new friends. So that's a challenge as well. New environment, new classrooms, new teachers, new everything.
Yeah.
It's a real challenge, and it's a tough time for young people. And it's hard, I guess, too, because it's a new experience, one that they haven't dealt with before.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so where do we start with this?
So, with regards to middle schoolers, this is a time where they're facing a lot of peer pressure and they can easily fall into patterns of self-criticism and self-doubt, which have an impact on their self-image. So it's not easy for them to counteract unrealistic expectations that they absorb from their peers, family, and even culture, especially in Korea. Because middle schoolers are under a lot of pressure to perform academically, to get into a good high school, good uni, and really start their adult life. What are you going to do after you graduate? So this is why teens need to enter middle school with the power to develop a healthy self-identity.
I guess I didn't think about that. I always thought, planning for a future for a kid starts maybe in the 10th grade of high school. And then maybe not even then. I mean, for me, I don't think I thought about anything until I was maybe halfway through the 11th grade of high school. But I guess here in Korea, because we do know that there's a lot of pressure academically on the kids, more so than Canada, I do believe that's a fair statement. So yeah, I guess it makes sense that starts earlier, perhaps as soon as the 7th grade or the 1st grade of middle school.
Absolutely, because they've only got 3 years of middle school, and then they've got to decide what are they going to do for high school, because high school leads into uni.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pressure here. I know Western countries, we don't think about it until high school.
Yeah, right.
Because it's high school that counts. We start to work our way up.
I guess then in the aftermath of COVID, there's an extra little twist on the difficulties of things, because a lot of kids weren't in school for large amounts of time. They didn't have those things that you talked about, the social interactions, the peer pressure perhaps not as strong during COVID times when you were being schooled at home or taking lessons online. But all of that is now going to come back full swing.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so let's get to some of the suggestions then. In the article from CNN, what exactly do they talk about?
So there were 5 suggestions in the article. The first was to recommend that your teen talks to themselves in the third person. So this might sound strange, but referencing yourself in the second or third person is a powerful way to get a different perspective on your own thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
And this is because the brain processes it as if you're talking about somebody else.
All right, so if I was a middle school student or starting middle school, then speaking in this fashion, like, Steve, make sure you do your homework today. That would be an example.
Yeah, or like if your child's a bit self-depreciating. If your child says, I'm really not smart and everybody's wondering why I can't solve the problem.
Okay.
It's suggested that you have them say instead, Chris is feeling not so smart. Everybody's confused about why he can't do the problem. Then ask, why is Chris feeling this way?
Why is this? I'm really kind of surprised to find this on the list. Why do experts say this is a good thing to do?
So according to experts, it's believed that when you avoid saying the words I or me, then it helps to make those negative feelings less strong.
Okay.
And as you play it out, you would end up giving yourself the same advice that you would give to a friend.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. I mean, I've heard a lot about the power of self-talk before, positive reinforcement for yourself. You talking to you in a positive way. That's not necessarily what this is. This is getting your feelings out.
Yeah.
So that you can process them almost from a third-party, unbiased point of view.
Exactly. I think that it kind of, in my opinion, it takes you outside of the situation that you're dealing with.
Okay.
So that by talking to yourself in the third person, you're looking from the outside in instead of as the person experiencing it.
Yeah. Instead of from the inside out, where you might have a hard time putting your finger on exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is good advice for adults too, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it starts as early as middle school. Talking about COVID times and online and things like that, I'm assuming that online presence is something that middle schoolers have to be aware of, not in terms of classes, but just in terms of social media presence, social media influence, things like that. In fact, I talked about a story a couple of days ago on the show about, I think it was Monday, where there's now a new danger around the world where young girls are looking at social influencers online and their makeup and skincare routines.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're following them. But they're only 9 years old.
Yeah.
And they're causing skin problems for themselves. So I guess this is a whole new thing too, right? Because when you get to that age, then you start to care, I guess, a little bit more about, what's happening with social media, and you want to keep up with it and be cool at the same time.
Exactly. So parents need to get their children to monitor how they feel after going online. According to research cited in the CNN article, researchers found that 87% of teens have used a filter on social media, which means that they're comparing themselves to impossible standards.
You're talking about like a photo filter to make themselves look better.
Exactly.
I think this one is tough. I think the first one is tough too. Speaking in the third person, that would take a lot of practice, I would think, so that you can get used to it. But gosh, I mean, children are just constantly online. So asking them how they feel, monitoring what they've been watching, what they've been seeing, that's a really almost impossible task.
Yeah. So essentially, parents need to tell their children that what they are seeing on social media is performative. I've always told my daughter that what she sees on social media is highly filtered, and she should question everything that she sees. Don't emulate it. And it's important for children of any age to be really mindful of the posts that they see and also the posts that they're sharing.
I think that's a really smart thing to do, is compare social media to a performance. The pictures you see often are not real. The people you see often do not look like that. What they're talking about needs to be researched deeper. You need to be aware of those people's audience. You are not necessarily the audience that they are speaking to. Yeah, there's lots to be careful with there. Interesting topic today. 5 recommendations. This is from an article from CNN that Cheryl found. 5 recommendations on how to get your teen ready for middle school, because for a lot of students, that's coming up pretty soon, isn't it? More coming up with Cheryl after this one. Here's Jack Harlow, Lovin' on Me. Jack Harlow, Lovin' on Me. And today with Cheryl in Parenting 101, we're talking about 5 tips. This is from an article from CNN. 5 tips on how to get your elementary school students, 6th grader, ready to move on to middle school. All right, so I think we covered a couple. What's another one on the list?
So another tip, according to the article, and one that I actually use with my own daughter, is to identify strengths. To improve a child's concept of themselves, they need to understand and draw on their strengths.
Okay.
So according to the article, the self becomes stronger less by being praised than by being loved, cherished, and known.
Okay, so this sounds like an important sentence. The self, meaning your kid, becomes stronger less by being praised than by being loved, cherished, and known. So that means just praising your kid. You did a great job. You're doing a great job. Oh, you're so great. You're so wonderful. You're so awesome. That's not as good as showing them other types of love and letting them be known. But I'm still okay. So can we put this in a context then? What does this look like for a parent talking to their child?
So when we praise kids, we go, "Oh, you're so good. You're so wonderful. You're so fantastic."
Yeah.
But that's empty. There's no context to that.
Okay.
But if we say, you know what, you did a really good job with, and then give it a name.
Okay, so be specific in what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can see that you're very good at. I can see that you're very strong with. And really label their strengths and let them know what their strengths are so that they can say to themselves, oh, yeah, I have this within me, and I love this about myself.
And you're not talking about physical strength here. You're talking about things like creativity or curiosity or anything that the child can come up with themselves.
Intrinsic strengths, not physical.
Okay.
But, I mean, could be physical.
Yeah, that could be one of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You said that you've done this with your daughter. So what kind of response have you gotten then?
Well, she knows because I've told her that, you're very empathetic, you're really kind, you're very creative. She knows that she has these capacities within herself. She used to be very curious. Her favorite question was always why.
Yeah, right.
But that's kind of petered off in the years.
Okay. I would think, too, that another danger for middle school students when they're starting out, maybe more so than elementary school, is the kids that they meet initially. Because when you go into a new school, obviously your inclination, what you want to do is make friends really quickly.
Yeah.
But if you meet the wrong people, right?
Yep.
What advice would you give to parents and how to communicate with their child about that? This isn't in reference to the article. It's just I'm curious to know about this.
I've always told my daughter that all she needs is 1 or 2 good friends. You don't need 100 friends. And those 2 good friends have to be people that you can trust, people that you feel secure with telling your secrets to, someone that you can talk to about anything and everything.
Okay.
That's what you need, 1 or 2. And it's very important to surround yourself with like-minded people, people who are positive, people who give something back to the relationship. Because there have been people around her who are what we might call takers.
Okay.
And I've told her that that's not what you want to surround yourself with. Because what you put out, you attract. So you want that positivity and you want those positive people around you.
Yeah, if they're not a positive influence on you, stay away.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. Which takes some bravery, which is on the list of from the CNN article. So what do they talk about when we're talking about being brave?
So when it comes to being brave, a lot of kids, especially middle schoolers, lack confidence. So what kids should do is kind of move outside of their comfort zone when they're in middle school and have new experiences and try new things.
Okay. You're talking about the type of bravery. What type of bravery? Are we talking about like bungee jumping, for example? Or are we talking about standing up and saying no to someone in a peer pressure situation?
Well, definitely standing up to someone and saying no in a peer pressure position. When kids experiment and do hard things, they learn about themselves. And that self-awareness can preserve their self-image. And they'll also feel better and build self-esteem when they face things that are hard. So it doesn't have to be something extreme. It can be simple. Like if they're a bit shy and the goal is just make one friend today. Or even learning a new skill. Like my daughter's case would be solving a math problem.
Okay. Building up the bravery to try new things subject-wise as well.
Sure.
I don't think I'm going to be good at math, but let me try it out. Let me give it my all and see if I have any skill here.
Exactly. And according to experts, for children who lack confidence, they should be encouraged to act as if.
As if meaning?
Like a fake it till you make it kind of mindset.
As if they are good at it already.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, project the confidence even if you don't feel confident.
Okay.
And eventually, even though you're faking it at the beginning, it'll actually build the courage and build the confidence.
Gotcha. All right, what's the final recommendation from the article?
So the fifth is kind of tied to the first in some way. The fifth is to come up with positive I am statements.
Okay.
So children should be encouraged to examine the terminology they use to describe themselves.
So instead of saying, I'm not good at math, they should say what? If they want to be describing that situation positively.
So they should just say, this is something that I'm challenged with.
Oh, this is a challenge for me.
This is a challenge for me.
Okay.
So
Yep.
it's more like taking the statement and rebranding it.
Okay.
So if someone says you're bossy, you rebrand it as I'm a leader or I'm motivating for people.
All right.
If the child's being self-critical, it's important to ask, whose voice is it? Is it a teacher, a coach, a classmate? And the idea is to otherize the voice and then ask what 3 pieces of evidence to the contrary can you keep on the ready so that you're prepared to say something back to the person. The goal is to teach the child to say, nah, you've got it wrong.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And having the bravery and the confidence to actually say that to someone.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good. And then positive affirmations, just very quickly, is a big part of this too, I guess.
Those are a great idea. A child telling themselves, it's okay if I don't like sport, it's okay if I have one friend, or just because I didn't do it perfectly doesn't mean I'm a failure. Kids should be able to tell themselves that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get it all right. I'm happy and secure with me.
Because the risk of feeling like a failure, even if it's just one thing, if you go to gym class and you're just not into it, you don't really like it, or that's not your skill set, then that's okay. And knowing that that's okay is an important message.
Exactly. The kids who can do that are more resilient. And for a middle schooler who's being bombarded with unrealistic messages and images, it's more important than ever to be resilient.
And parents can help out with that positive reinforcement.
Exactly.
As well. Awesome. Nice last segment before your trip. We're not going to see you for 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Cheryl, have an incredible time. Enjoy Australia. It's the summertime there too, right?
It is, yeah. Kai's going to be surfing, surf coaching.
What's the temperature?
About 31 degrees.
31 degrees sounds fantastic. All right, well, have a great trip. Safe travels to you.
Thank you. See you in 6 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you when you come back. All right, stay with us for hour number 2. It's MK and Burns and Teddy Swims to finish the first. Better.
Oh, I found you.
BEFM 부산 영어방송.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전 기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine from Morning Wave in Busan. Do you turn into a hideous monster every time you're behind the wheel? Feeling a little guilty? Well, Busan drivers ranked the lowest in a national survey for driving behavior. But if we practice good driving etiquette, we can all become gentler beings. Here are two things to keep in mind. First up, when you're changing lanes, make sure to use your blinker. And second, although I do love getting text messages from all of you, don't text and drive. That's a no-no. Good driving etiquette equals safety for all. This campaign is brought to you by Morning Wave in Busan on BEFM. Oh, by the way, tune in to Morning Wave in Busan to get real-time traffic updates. You know your morning commute's better with me, Kat.
보이스피싱 전화 올 땐 전화 끊고 확인하기. 택배 주소 오류 사기, 인터넷 주소 클릭한대.
늘 의심하고 꼭 전화 끊고 또 확인하고
보이스피싱에 눈을 뜨며
예방책이 보입니다.
공익광고협의회.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
You're listening to Steve Hatherly Reboot on BEFM 90.5.
Ceilings plaster. Can't you just make it move faster? Lovely to be sitting here with you. You're kind of
That was Lizzie McAlpine with Ceilings, and lyrically, the song finds Lizzie singing about an idyllic young love. It's the kind of unspoiled romance shown in movies where you are so in love with one another that nothing else matters in life. It's all about the love. Throughout most of the song, we think that McAlpine is thinking about an actual boyfriend, but there's a twist at the end where she reveals it's not an actual person. She's just fantasizing about the future. Yes, right. Young people always do that, right? In fact, maybe not just young people, single people fantasize about the perfect guy, the perfect girl, the perfect partner that they want to meet in their life. They have it all planned out, exactly what their personality will be like, exactly what they will look like. And then guess what happens? The person you end up with maybe doesn't fulfill those different things that you thought would be perfect, but you find a new definition of perfect for you. But the thing is, when you're young, you never know what that's going to be, what that's going to look like, or what that's going to encompass personality-wise. You just have to find out through trial and error, I guess, is the way to go with that one. Nice tune from Lizzie McAlpine to get us into the second hour today. Thank you so much for staying with me. You're tuned in on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Jongguan, and Noksan areas in Seoul, on TBS EFM 101.3 and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7. Talking with Cheryl in the first hour about getting your child ready for middle school. Yeah, and I brought up the point, some really great points in that article from CNN, just about personality, about getting them ready confidence-wise. And then I brought up the point of, meeting the right people, how important I can imagine that is, right? Because every school has good kids and bad kids, right? And don't get me wrong, the bad kids, it doesn't mean they're bad humans. It just means they have bad habits. A lot of students many times will, start drinking too young before it's legal, or start smoking. And then you want to make sure that your kids avoid those people. But I just don't know how, because you're not there, right? And I think that's the hardest part. You're not at school watching them interact with other kids, so you don't know who the bad influences are. And that's where the biggest challenge comes from, I guess, right? So when they come home from school, you try and talk to them and try and figure it out. And who did you meet? And what are they like? Who are these people? And just talking about that with Cheryl reminded me of my younger days. And in my elementary school, middle school days, my parents started to ask me more questions. In elementary school, they didn't really ask me about my playmates after school. But in middle school, they started asking. They wanted to know, who are these people? And I thought, why do you care? But now, of course, I know that's exactly why they cared, because they wanted to know whether they were going to be a good influence or a bad influence. And, my dad was a high school vice principal, so he had quite high standards, I think. My mom did too. But yeah, they were careful about who they wanted me to spend my time with. And if they didn't like somebody, they told me straight up, we don't like that person, and we don't want you to hang out with them anymore. And at the time, I would get upset and say, why, but now I completely get it. I remember one story. This is quite funny. When I was in high school, my friend James, and James is a good guy. James was a straight A student in school. James was the type of guy that you knew he was going to have a bright future. And he didn't misbehave in school. He didn't do anything wrong. But James's relationship with his parents was a little bit different than I had with mine. James was allowed to swear in his house. Now, that might sound strange to a Korean family, right? It's almost unheard of. But in the West, it's not normal, I wouldn't say, but it's not unheard of either. And I don't mean James would swear at his parents. I just mean James was allowed to use some bad language, some bad words sometimes in his house, and his parents wouldn't say anything about it. Again, great family. His father was a politician, as a matter of fact. It was just a different setup. So anyway, James is at my house one day, and and I won't tell you what James said, but my dad was in the room, and we were talking about one of the other students at school, and we were saying, oh, yeah, we don't really like that guy. And James said in front of my father, yeah, that guy's a And immediately I was like, oh, no. And I saw my dad's eyes. He just immediately stared at James, and James wasn't looking at him. But I was like, well, I guess that's the last time James is coming to this house. So nobody said anything at the time. My dad didn't say a word. But when James and I left the house, I said, dude, why'd you do that? He said, what? I said, you swore in front of my father. He said, oh, I didn't even think. I said, no, that's not good. And then I went back home later, and my dad said, I'll never forget it. Don't bring him here again. That was it. One sentence. Don't bring him here again. So James wasn't allowed to visit the house anymore. And I didn't tell that to James. Hey, you're not allowed to come back. It's just he wasn't invited anymore. Oh, goodness me. I'll never forget that. And that voice tone, too. Don't bring him anymore. Don't bring him into this house. Yeah, high school, middle school, you got to deal with that stuff, I guess, sometimes as parents, yeah? And as kids, too. There's a flip side to that coin. Anyway, coming up in hour number 2, let's talk about the lineup for the second hour today. We're going to switch our focus over to sound. I love sound. Do you enjoy sound? Do you know what I mean when I ask you that question? It sounds like a strange question, but I enjoy music. I enjoy the sounds of music, the artistry behind it, soundscapes. I like to listen to, there are apps for your phones or for your tablets that have the sound of like crackling fire or a flowing river or rain falling on a tin roof. I enjoy that type of stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons that I like my job, because I get to hear the sound of voices through talking. I get to hear the sound of music. Those sounds, we can manipulate those sounds. That's one of the things I like about that. I can lower the level of my voice like this, and then I can bring it back up. Do you know what I mean? It's cool. You can manipulate it. You can add layers to vocals to make it sound more echoey. I just love it. I love all of it. I love sound. That being said, for our fun fact of the day, we're going to talk about the quietest room in the world, which is, of all my talking about loving sounds, we're talking the flip side, the quietest room in the world. What's that like when you go into a space that is completely and utterly devoid of sound? That will be the experience that I'll share with you. It's not my experience, but someone did it, and they'll talk about what that was for them. Interesting results from that. I guess I'll talk more about it when I share that with you for our fun fact of the day. After that, we'll move on to Hatherly's Hather List, and we'll talk more about sounds. A list of sound-related information. It's kind of a myth-busting segment today. Some things that we know to be true may not be. Some things that we know to be true actually are. So we'll go through that as well. That's an interesting list today. We'll also have a perfect playlist. We've got the best songs for every situation, and I will check your messages throughout the second hour as well. All right, question of the day today. It is sound related. What sound makes you cringe? Cringe. I like that word. It's very cacophonic, isn't it? Cacophonic means a word that doesn't sound pretty. The opposite would be like butter. Butter is a euphonic sounding word. It means it sounds nice to your ears. But cringe, the CR, the NG, cringe. It's a cacophonic sounding word. And that's exactly what it means. When you hear something that makes you cringe, it makes you feel like that. Like, oh, I hate that sound. 여러분을 오그라들게 만드는 소리는 무엇인가요? All right, let's see what you say about this. I asked Andy for more details about styrofoam. He said that when he heard styrofoam when he was young, he threw up, which is interesting. That's a physiological reaction. That's a strong reaction to just the sound of it. So here's the extra information that Andy sent. Anything and everything about styrofoam. The sound when you take it out of the box, the sound of it rubbing against each other. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, now I'm cringing. Styrofoam on styrofoam. Yes, I agree with you. I was having trouble kind of understanding your answer, Andy. Like, oh, what kind of sound? I mean, styrofoam, it's not so bad. But yeah, when you rub it against each other, it's that high-pitched squeaking sound, right? Even the weird sensation, Andy says, when you touch it. That part doesn't bother me. But yeah, the styrofoam on styrofoam sound. That's no good. 1656 says, the sound that makes me cringe is the hum of a motorcycle, a loud sound from a motorcycle in the middle of the night. 새벽에 갑자기. But you know what? That's motorcycle culture I've heard in Korea. Motorcycle groups will go out and ride in the middle of the night, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., because there's no traffic at that time. So that's part of motorcycle culture here in Korea, I've heard. I had a motorcycle before, and I never really got the middle of the night driving thing. That never was appealing to me because I worked, so I didn't want to do that. I was fine with daytime driving, but I know what you're talking about. It's all quiet. It's 2 a.m. or whatever, and then all of a sudden you hear that super loud motorcycle engine. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Or a car engine, too. Sometimes someone with their sports car will do that at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and you want them to sell their car or their motorcycle immediately, right? Which is ironic because I like the motorcycle sound. I love a motorcycle engine sound, but I agree, not at that time of night. For me, auto-related, a car horn makes me cringe. I absolutely hate this about driving culture here in Korea and New York. They do it in New York. They do it in Montreal. So don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about Korea, but that when people do that, oh my gosh, I just want to bang on their car and tell them to stop. I know it's kind of like a form of road rage, right? But I can't stand it. And that sound, that horn sound absolutely makes me cringe. But nobody likes that one, right? That's my question today. It's fun to think about. It's fun to talk about, too. What sound makes you cringe? One more time. 여러분을 오그라들게 만드는 소리는 무엇인가요? Text me, #9050 for 101. Add us on Kakao Talk for free. Send messages for free by searching BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us a comment after logging in. All right, let's move on to our expression of the day. This is from King the Land, and this is quite a good expression today. The language doesn't literally translate. Our expressions in Korean or in English are a little bit more unique, whereas the Korean expression is a little bit more straightforward. But we have quite a bit to learn here, I would say. So this is, again, from King the Land. And in this scene, the grandma is at the bank with the hotel heir. And the reason they're there together is because he is helping her run her errands. He's trying to impress her, to get her approval for his girlfriend. So they're at the bank, and then it's the bank teller who's explaining to the hotel heir, oh, her personality is a little bit difficult. She's not the easiest person to deal with. And in Korean, this is what that sounds like.
우리 할머니 보통 아니신데요.
우리 할머니 보통 아니신데요. 아니신데요. All right, so let's go through it and see what we can see. 우리 할머니, 할머니 is grandmother, and 우리 means our. So 우리 할머니 means like this grandma, but this is the expression I want us to learn today. 보통 아니신데. 보통 아니야. Harmony 보통 아니야. All right, so I was confused by this because I know that 보통 means like basic, and 아니신데 or 아니야 means no. So basic, I thought 보통 아니야. 보통 like basic no, but it changes the meaning a little bit when you put these together. So 보통 아니야 or 보통 아니신데 means not easy. Or when we're talking about people, not simple to convince, not easy to negotiate with. And then Napidi, we were talking about it before the show, and Napidi jumped on the internet and he was searching for some translations to see what would fit well. And he found one translation from a blog. 보통 아니다 in English is a way to describe a person like this. A tough cookie. A tough cookie. Now, a tough cookie is someone who may be a little bit strong in their personality. A tough cookie is someone who is difficult to deal with sometimes, difficult to convince sometimes. In business, a tough negotiator. Now, that sounds like it's all negative. So you may think if I say, oh, he's a tough cookie, she's a tough cookie, then that would be an insult. But actually, it's a compliment. In English, that's a compliment, or at least it can be a compliment. Now, the translation for this was not a tough cookie, but it's a synonym. It's the exact same meaning with a different expression. Uri Harmony, our grandma, this grandma is a hard nut to crack, or a tough nut to crack. Okay, a tough nut to crack. When you have like what's a nut that has a tough shell? Like a walnut, maybe? If you try to open it, it's not easy, right? That's where this expression comes from. It's not easy to open that nut shell. So it's the same meaning. A tough cookie, a tough nut to crack means someone who's not easy to deal with sometimes, but not in a bad way. One more time in English, she is a hard nut to crack, or she is a tough cookie. And in Korean, 우리 할머니 보통 아니신데. Let's hear it one more time.
우리 할머니 보통 아니신데요.
And one final point about this. If you want to use this to say it about someone, in English you can say, you are a tough cookie. And again, it's kind of a compliment. And in Korean, 너는 보통 아니야, which sounds like an insult, doesn't it? But it's not. It doesn't have to be. This can kind of be like a compliment too, meaning you're not easy, you're not simple, you're a tough cookie, you're a hard nut to crack. There you go. Hopefully those expressions help out your English or your Korean, depending on which one you are learning. And we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to learn about someone's experience of entering the quietest room in the world. Here is how do we say this? MIIA or Mia? Either one. Green lights. That was MIA with Green Lights, and now it's time for our fun fact of the day. And this, to me, is quite interesting. This is about the quietest room in the world and what happened to a man who spent the longest amount of time in this quietest room in the world. We all, don't we? We all want a little bit of peace and quiet from time to time. But this man who spent the longest ever amount of time in one of the quietest spaces on the planet would probably tell you that there is such thing as too much quiet. If you are someone like me and you always need a little bit of background music, then the anechoic chamber at the University of London, or South Bank University in London, is probably not the space for you. This space isn't the only place in the world where that has an anechoic chamber, but they do have one there as well. So if you're wondering, what's an anechoic chamber? Well, I looked it up, and it's described as this, and the definition really doesn't help. It's a shielded space designed and constructed to resist intrusive electromagnetic waves and suppress the emission of electromagnetic waves to the outside world. These chambers were originated in the early 1950s and were initially used to experiment with and do research on radio equipment and on antennas. And again, that doesn't really help with the definition, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future when I get to that in the story. So far from just wearing noise-canceling headphones or finding yourself enjoying the quiet of the countryside, this is a soundproofed booth, and it's so quiet that they actually measure sound in negative decibels. Just 45 minutes in the chamber is the maximum amount of time people are advised to stay. As the chamber's designer, Stephen Orfield, explained, he said, "We challenge people to sit in the chamber in the dark. When it's quiet, your ears will adapt. The quieter the room, the more things you hear. You'll hear your heart beating. Sometimes you can hear your lungs. Sometimes you can hear your stomach. In the anechoic chamber, you become the sound." Oh, now this is fascinating to me. We always think about this question: who am I? Right? We think about our own personalities, the way that we interact with other people. We think about that too. But we don't often think about this. What am I? Right? But in this chamber, I imagine that's exactly the thing that you're thinking about, because you are the only sounds that you can hear. Kind of fascinating, right? Well, keen to see whether he could withstand the silence or not, YouTuber and musician Calix decided to try and set a new record for the amount of time spent in the chamber. He did this back in 2019. At that time, the record was 67 minutes. He did this video, and he showcased the challenge, and he provided a brief description of the room, and he outlined the rules that he had to abide by in order for his attempt to count toward the official Guinness World Record. So here are the rules that he had to follow. He had to be alone in the chamber. He wasn't allowed to sleep or faint. He must be monitored and remain under constant supervision. The sound must stay below 25 decibels. The challenger, that would be him, permitted to speak for up to 1 minute every 5 minutes. And yes, in these chambers, you can hear the sound of your voice. These chambers absorb sound. They don't reflect it at all, but you can still hear the sounds that you are making. You're allowed to leave at any time. If you freak out, if you get uncomfortable, you're allowed to open the door and leave. And then they say that it's good if you can do it in the dark, but that's optional. Well, it didn't take long for Calix to start feeling the effects, as just 5 minutes spent in isolation made him feel disoriented following an intense burst of tinnitus in both ears. Fascinating. At the 15-minute mark, he claimed to be seeing lights dancing around him in the room, and after 30 minutes inside, he claimed to be able to hear the sound of his own blood. After closing in on an hour and getting within spitting distance of the world record, he almost gave up as he reported becoming disturbed by hallucinations in the room. Calix didn't quit, though. He went on to smash the record by setting a new one of 1 hour and 26 minutes. And when they asked him about the experience, he answered in one sentence. I won't repeat the sentence, but I can tell you that my high school friend James, he would have no problem saying this sentence in front of my dad. Crazy though, right? So here's the point, and I did some extra reading about this last night. Our brains, we are so used to hearing sound that when we don't hear anything, our brain will search for something to fill in the blank spaces. So when he said that he could hear the sound of his blood in his body, it's because his brain became so hyper-focused on finding something to listen to that's where it goes. That's where your brain goes. And back to what I was saying in the first hour, we don't even think about it. We are constantly surrounded by sound. Even when we think we're not, there's lots of ambient sound going on around us. But when it's completely removed, our brain entirely freaks out. Isn't that interesting? I think that's my favorite fun fact of the day so far for 2024, although we're still in January. We have a long time to go until the end of the year. Yes, that is my fun fact of the day. We'll have a break, and when we come back, we'll continue on with our theme of sound, and we'll talk about some things on a list. Unbelievable, believable, things that we do believe that are true and sometimes not true, but still all relating to sound. We'll get into Hatherly's Hather List after this. It's Landon Barker, Friends with Your Ex.
I was friends with your ex.
That was Landon Barker, Friends with Your Ex, and now it's time for Hatherly's Hather List. And this is a list of information about sound. Different topics will bounce around a little bit, but all related to sound. So let's get into it and see what we can learn from this. Let's start with this one. The volume of your headphones. Does it matter or does it not? It's fairly common for adults to warn their kids that they should turn down the volume or they will damage their hearing. Most kids don't take the warnings very seriously, as most young people imagine that if a product is commonly sold on the market, then it's going to have volume levels that are safe for us to use. Unfortunately, that assumption is incorrect, and hearing loss due to headphones and earbuds is becoming an increasing problem. While it can also affect adults, it is especially common in children and teens and is leading to a rise in hearing loss in pediatric patients as well. This epidemic actually has a few pretty easy solutions. The most important one is to turn the volume down in general and also decide on a maximum volume. Noise-canceling headphones, they say that they can help as well as our higher quality products on the market. But at the end of the day, there's no substitute for turning down the volume or giving your ears a break. Yeah, this is going to be a problem for me in my future, I think, because on the board in front of me, I have the volume to control my headphones, which allows me to hear the sound of my voice, and I keep it almost at the maximum, and it's for monitoring purposes, right? Singers do it too. You ever see singers on stage and they've got those little things in their ears? It looks like a hearing aid, and sometimes if they're not working, they'll pull them out in the middle of the performance. That's so that they can they're called monitors, so they can hear their own voice. I like to hear it loud and clear. And that's going to be a problem for me in the future. I like to listen to music really loud as well. Other announcers, though, radio announcers, they'll keep the volume so low that they can barely hear themselves. And I've often wondered, how can you do that? It's just the total opposite of what makes me feel comfortable. That's why I keep it so loud. It helps me feel more comfortable, and I don't hear anything else other than what I'm saying. But that's a bad thing. So tell your kids and tell yourself, turn the volume down in your headphones. This next one's interesting. During the early days of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, the United States was under fire for their treatment of prisoners in Guantanamo Bay and in Afghanistan and Iraq as well. And while many of the tortures were the general run-of-the-mill tortures that you would already expect, there were some really strange ones slipped in as well. In particular, the CIA apparently used bad American pop music as a way to torture detainees. Popular among the torture music were songs by Britney Spears, Metallica, and Sesame Street. Now, that may not sound bad compared to some types of torture, but the experts say that the entire reason it was used was because it can actually be more effective than a physical type of torture. Music can cause humiliation or sensory overload and also moral discomfort if it happens to go against the religion of the detainee. This is something I never would have thought about before. They say that this was particularly effective with many prisoners because their religion made the music that they were being forced to listen to, it made it sinful for them. And if it still doesn't sound that bad, just recall the last time a young relative subjected you to a few repeat renditions of Let It Go, right? After a few times, you feel like it's cringeworthy. You can't listen to it anymore. That was one of my favorite videos when that movie came out. The mom, she made a YouTube video, and she was just staring at the camera, and she said, I can't hear this song anymore. And in the background, you could hear her little girl like, let it go, let it go. So cute. Yeah, I didn't know about this. Pop music as a way to perhaps get a detainee to do what you want. Do plants grow to classical music? Moving on. Yes or no? What do you think? Do plants grow when they listen to classical music? Yes or no? Well, talking to plants or trees might seem like a silly thing to you, and playing music to them might seem even sillier. The elves, if you remember in The Lord of the Rings, they woke the trees up and taught them to talk, but of course that's a movie and it's also fantasy. The majority of people, they are likely to argue that plants are not at all aware of anything and that talking to them and especially playing music to them is crazy. However, before you dismiss the idea, it turns out that 2/3 of gardeners are convinced that playing music to their plants is actually doing something useful. Some might start questioning their collective sanity when they hear that, but the truth is that science actually backs this up. The Mythbusters, as well as other official researchers, have tested out these claims and found that the plant people are on the right track for playing music to them. The researchers found that the stomata of plants actually stay open longer when classical music is played. This is important because the stomata, found in essentially all plants on Earth, are vital for it to take in CO2 and release oxygen. Play classical music in your house if you have a lot of plants, and it will help them grow. That is science. Science in your home at work. Pretty cool, right? How about this one? Can a voice break glass? Is it possible or is it not? I'll keep this one really, really brief. You've seen the videos or maybe in a movie where someone screams and all of a sudden a wine glass will shatter. No, that one is a myth. There would have to be a lot of fractions happening in the glass in order for that to work. So that's not going to happen. That one was busted. And finally, I'll leave you with this one today. In 1883, Krakatoa, a massive volcano, erupted in the Indonesian archipelago, and the blast was so loud that it was heard 1,930 miles or 3,110 kilometers away in Perth, Australia, and it was estimated at 182 decibels. And 172 decibels, 161 kilometers away from the site of the eruption. And there weren't any recordings, as recording devices were only just coming into existence. Again, it was 1883. But they do have some idea for those who heard it. And they said it sounded like the distant roar of heavy guns. And fortunately, with the telegraph just becoming a common part of life, they were able to confirm that no wars were starting. But it didn't mean that people were out of the woods. The sound wave, believed to be the loudest sound ever on this planet, circled the world 4 times, causing tsunamis all the way to South Africa. And then it choked the sky with fumes, and it caused worldwide famines as well. The loudest sound on Earth was in 1883 when Krakatoa, the massive volcano, erupted. That is today's Hatherly's Hather List. We'll have another musical interlude, and we'll get to Perfect Playlist when we come back. Here is Mary Jo, Cleveland. Time now for Perfect Playlist, and the theme this week is Days of the Week, and it's a Thursday today, so we've got songs about Thursday. What have we got for you this afternoon? We'll start with Jess Glynn. Thursday. Jess Glynn co-wrote her song Thursday with Ed Sheeran and Steve Mack. She described it as one of her favorite tracks because it captures the struggle of a woman trying to feel like who she is and the fact that she is enough with herself as a person, squelching the need to change to satisfy those around her. After that, we'll hear Leonard Herron on a Thursday morning. This song is about a man who's trying to forget a woman he used to love. The song came out in 2017, and it's from the album Sounds from My Room. It's a great track to listen to if you're looking for some feel-good music. Not really as popular as some of the other songs about Thursday out there, but definitely worth a listen for sure. Here we go. A couple of tunes about Thursday today for Perfect Playlist. Jess Glynn, Thursday. Leonard Herron on a Thursday morning.
I won't wear makeup on Thursday.
Those were our two perfect playlist songs for today. Leonard Herron on a Thursday morning, and before that, Jess Glynn Thursday. And that will do it for Steve Hatherly Reboot for this afternoon. Thank you so much for hanging out with me over the last couple of hours. Thank you to Cheryl for today's Parenting 101. Thank you to you, as always, for your listenership and your participation. I've been your host, Steve Hatherly, and I'll leave you with Mount Kimby today. This one's called Dumb Guitar. Enjoy that track. Have a really great day today, and we shall reboot again tomorrow.